Hi, this is Suchadatta once again teaching you SST, and here I pick up Geography chapter Manufacturing Industries, class 10. Well children, all of you know that industry is a place where actually the raw materials are processed in such a way that we can consume it directly. Now, the biscuit that you eat or the dress that you wear is actually all the contribution of various kind of industries which are there. So, here we are going to study about the various kinds of industries, from where do they get the raw material and what are the other essential things that they need to make their product reachable to people. So, we are going to study about all this, but as the trend follows, we are going to actually understand the new terms and concepts of the chapter before we actually start with the chapter. The first concept that you must understand is agro based industry. Agro based industry, let us break it. Agro means agriculture, based means on which it actually depends, and industry is a place where it gets manufactured. So, those industries which process agricultural raw materials and then the final product comes out is actually agro based industries. So, what do they need? They just need products from the farms, from the agricultural sector. And the example of agro based industry, the best example that I can give you is the cotton textile industry. And which is the raw material that they require? Cotton. Next, basic industry. Now, as the word suggests, they are the industries which we can also call as the key industries, because all the large and the small scale industries depend on these industries, that is the basic industries, for everything. And the example is iron and steel industry. So, whether it is a big manufacturing unit or a small manufacturing unit, all of them have to depend upon the basic industry. Next, we have consumer industries. Again, very simple. Consumer, that is, these industries, they manufacture goods for direct consumption, that is for directly to be purchased by the consumer and used by him. It could be the plastic or it could be the utensils that they make. Anything that you pick up directly and use, that is just made for consumers, is actually the consumer industry. Now, you must be thinking everything is being consumed by us, then why only this is a consumer industry? But just now you saw that the basic industry, what does it produce? It produces for the large and the small scale industry, not for direct consumption by the consumer. So, here it is meant for directly consuming by the consumer. Next is cooperatives, as the word suggests. Cooperatives, lot of people cooperating, coming together. So, it is that unit which is owned by members from a cooperative society. That is, they all join hands, they come together and they actually start with an industry or with a unit, and this they decide that they are going to pool everything, the money that they have, they are going to share the profit and the losses whichever are there. So, in fact, all the people become as one individual. Now, the best example that we know of a cooperative is the Amul Delhi milk scheme that we have. Next is heavy industry. Again, the name is suggesting heavy means huge, big. So, heavy industry is actually that industry which not only uses heavy raw material, but also the final product which comes out of it is also very large, bulky and heavy. So, those units, industries engaged in the manufacturing of heavy products is actually a heavy industry, and heavy engineering products is the best example of a heavy industry. Continuing with the terms and concepts, I pick up the next term, which is the joint sector industries. Now, the joint sector industries, if we break it, we understand that somebody has joined together to form this industry, and therefore, when the government joins hand with an individual or individuals, and then that industry is set up, is actually the joint sector industries. Which is the best example that you can think of a joint sector industry? Reliance Chemical is the best example of a joint sector industry. Next is large scale industries. As the name suggests, large scale industry is that industry which is doing everything on a large scale, whether it is the raw material that is required, or the labor that is required, or the capital, the investment that is required, or the production which is coming out, is all on a large scale. Therefore, the industry is termed as a large scale industry. Next, we have the light industry. As the name suggests, light industry, those industries which use light raw materials and the product which comes out of it is also very light. Which is the lightest thing that you can think of? Well, if yes, then I can place the paper industry in the light industry category. Next is manufacturing. Now, what is manufacturing? When actually the raw materials are processed and then the final product comes into existence or it comes out, is actually manufacturing. Next is public sector industries. Public sector industries are those industries which are owned by the state government or its agencies. Solely the hold is of the government, it is not owned by individuals. That is the public sector industries. The best example that we can give of this is BHEL, that is the Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited. Next is private sector industries. If public sector is actually owned by the government, then the private sector industries are owned by private individuals. That is, either one man or group of people own this kind of industry, and their basic aim is just profit and profit alone. And the example of this is the Tata Iron and Steel Company. Next is small scale industry. Small scale industry is that industry wherein it can also be called as a household kind of an industry, where few people work and the production which comes out is also at a very small scale. So, the labor required, the money required, and also the goods which come out of it and the raw material are all very, very small. And the best example of small scale industry is most of the ready-made garment are actually manufactured in this kind of units, that is the small scale industrial units. These were all the categories of different kinds of industries which are running in India. Now, I am going to tell you in the next clipping about the various important 1-mark questions that your teacher might ask you in your exam.